On a hot afternoon, under the blazing sun in Chang'an, the ancient capital of Chu, the marketplace was a chaotic symphony of vibrant shouts. In the clatter of chariot wheels on dusty roads, most people were lost in their daily routines, haggling and joking, but one particular spot was an oasis of calm concentration, a world apart. This was the place where the diviner Shema Jizu and his disciples sat. He was quietly teaching his students the fundamental principles of the universe, the movements of the sun and moon, and the nature of fortune and misfortune in the human world. As it happened, two high-ranking officials were passing through the market, Grand Master Song Chang and the erudite Jie Yi, both considered pillars of the nation. They were walking with their usual dignified gait when they suddenly stopped. Amid the market's noise, the clear, resonant voice of Shema Jizu had caught their attention, and they found themselves listening to the depth of his wisdom, the thousands of words flowing from a man they would have dismissed as a common street fortune teller seemed to touch upon truths deeper than anything they had ever read in books. After listening for some time, the two men felt a mixture of admiration and confusion, a feeling that soon curdled into arrogance. Song Chang spoke first. "Your wisdom is truly astonishing, old man, but why do you sit here on the street in the lowly guise of a fortune teller, engaging in this grubby business? Don't diviners simply feed on people's anxieties, deceiving them with empty words? A truly noble person is a sage like us, who sits in the high halls of the palace, receives a state salary, and benefits the world." At their sharp questions, Shema Jizu glanced at his disciples, and then raised his head toward the two officials. A hearty laugh spread across his face, not of mockery, but of deep compassion. "Gentlemen," he began, "by what measure do you distinguish the noble from the lowly? Is it the color of your official robes, or the number of jade pieces on your belts? And tell me, what kind of people are these sages you speak of?" He continued, "The truly wise man, as I know him, is one who walks the righteous path, even when no one is watching. If he counsels his Lord 3 times and is not heard, he steps away without regret. He does not expect reward when he praises others, nor does he fear retaliation when he criticizes them. He regards a high position unsuited for him, or a salary received without merit as poison and rejects them firmly. He cannot tolerate injustice, no matter who the opponent is. He is not swayed by profit, nor does he regret a loss. This is the mark of a truly wise man." Shema Jizu's voice now turned as cold as frost. "But what is the reality of these so-called wise men who sit in high places? They bow and scrape before power, forming cliques to drive out righteous people while seeking only their own fame and fortune. They use the law as a shield, to exploit the peasants and commit atrocities under the authority of their ruler. They are like insects gnawing away at the pillars of the state, to fill their own bellies. How is this any different from a robber with a sword?" Song Chang and Jie Yi's faces flushed crimson, as if their innermost thoughts had been exposed. They stood speechless. Shema Jizu looked them squarely in the eye, and delivered the final point of his lesson. "Let me tell you why I am here. A fine steed is not yoked to a cart with an old, sick donkey. A sacred phoenix does not flock with swallows and sparrows. Likewise, a truly wise person does not stand in line with the foolish and the corrupt. That is why I have withdrawn from the world's eye to speak of clear principles here in this muddy place. You too are bloodied and bruised from your fight for status and fame. How could you possibly comprehend the tranquil heart of a virtuous man, struck by a shock that seemed to drain all the strength from their bodies?" Song Chang and Jie Yi turned and left, unable to even lift their heads in their shame. Many years passed. Song Chang, who had been racing toward the pinnacle of power, was sent as an envoy to the Xiongnu. He was executed for failing to complete his mission. Jie Yi, after the prince he had tutored fell from a horse and died, was so overwhelmed by grief and a sense of responsibility that he refused all food and drink, eventually starving himself to death. In the end, the very power and honor they had chased their entire lives led them to their miserable fates. They proved with their own lives that the greater the power, the greater the danger. The dust of this story has scattered with time, but the question posed by the old diviner in the marketplace remains with us still. What is it that you truly seek in life? Is it the dazzling status that everyone can see, or is it the inner virtue and wisdom that no one can ever take away? And with whom is your fine steed now pulling its chariot?